Hello friends, Horace Levy here again. In the new year, I'm picking up and continuing in this session the line of thought that I ended in the blog before Christmas. I was exploring there the pivot to the economy urged by the Prime Minister Andrew Holness. A move away from the macroeconomy, he said. The elements of the macroeconomy that had been summoning full attention was what is called the fiscal dimension. The fiscal dimension is focused on the pay down of debt, the control of inflation, and the management of money all over. But now, in the current scene, the high cost of living, that was leaving the majority of people just gasping for breath. This was forcing the Prime Minister, whose target everybody knows is prosperity for all. This was forcing the Prime Minister to take into account that there are other dimensions of the economy than just the fiscal. And that's why he's talking about a turn to the economy, away from the fiscal, away from the macroeconomic, which I'm saying was largely to do with the fiscal. But what is it? What does this turn to the economy require? I suggested that the visible deprivation of people and the inequality, because a section of the population was prospering quite a bit, was the failure to develop the nation's productive potential. Failure to develop the nation's productive potential. And this failure, I was saying the last time, stemmed from leaving it to the private sector to run things. The private sector ran things, all right, but for their own benefit. And they would tell you that responsibility for the general population is not their task, it's the government's. Clearly, therefore, if leaving the private sector to run things wasn't functioning, we needed an alternative. We needed to move away from the trickle-down approach, which was what was involved with leaving it to the private sector. Because international experience has shown that trickle-down doesn't trickle down for the majority of people at all. And therefore, it had to be something else, a trickle-up, or a state action of some form. It had to be some form of state control and direction if it's not to be in the hands of the private sector. That would be the immediate alternative. But what concrete form would this alternative take? And that was the closing question of my previous blog. How concretely could you formulate this state direction and guidance? There was a lot of talk about the economy, but very little concretely about what it meant. Now, the thing is that in a study that I did a year and a half ago of 5 companies in Jamaica, it came about that I was, from consulting with 3 particularly of these 5 companies, I learned that there was something called a niche market. And that what the country needed was to recognize the power of this niche market. as one of them pointed out, it was crucial for the country to pick a winner, to pick this niche market, in fact. And the state could help do this considerably, picking this winner, helping to increase its supply of products, because that was one of its problems. Supply was insufficient. Furthermore, helping with research and joining up the relevant ministries, because it couldn't be just agriculture alone, but other ministries had to be involved. Ministry of Research, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Finance, because some investment was needed in this sector. So this kind of state support and state guidance is what came out of that piece of study. And the niche that I'm talking about had to do with the fact that Jamaica has virtually sole possession of a set of herbs, roots, fruits, flavors, fragrances, vegetables. No other country in the world has these. Scotch bonnet, black pepper, turmeric, scallion, pimento, Jamaican coffee, Jamaican cocoa. These no other country in the world had. And by exploiting this, Jamaica's economy could literally take off. Howard Mitchell's little company, medium-sized company, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, was one of the companies that I studied that was making this argument. They were producing a range of drinks and sauces, and they were also into body creams, cleaners, and detergents. Another company tapping into the unique fruits and flavors that Jamaica alone has is Grace Kennedy. And they were putting the same argument forward. Jamaican Teas was another company that was saying pretty much the same thing. The unique character of these products, according to Justin Yifu Lin, former World Bank chief economist, currently professor of economics at Beijing University, he argues persuasively that exploiting the advantage of exotic products such as these, Jamaica could take off. But we have to do it at sufficient quantity. Jamaican ginger, for example, Howard Mitchell says, if all Jamaica were planted out in ginger, Jamaican ginger, it would still not meet international demand. So these products are not just, I'm not just saying manufacturing these out of the air. These are things that are in demand worldwide. But what is needed with it is an integrated agro-processing policy and a practice of joined-up ministries. Not just Mitchell, but Zach Morris and Maureen Denton of Grace Kennedy. They were pushing the very same point. So an agro-processing policy of this kind is what you would call a developmental approach to the economy rather than a trickle-down approach. So the state is taking a directive hand This is what countries rather, like Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan. This is the kind of economic approach that has made them prosperous. But along with the selection, there has to be some investment on the part of the government, some support, for example, for increased research. And then we have to bear in mind as well that there's Jamaican tourism, a thriving industry. Here's a source where we could, this use of our niche could link up and gain a lot from. A highly developed industry, which we need to take advantage of and link up with in other respects. So, we set out to point out to you the kind of productive potential that Jamaica has with this niche market of it that it possesses. Niche market. Jamaica is a unique possessor of this market. The international people like Yifu Lin and also the Antonio, gosh, his last name escapes me at the moment, of the University of London. He also points out the power that Jamaica has at its fingertips to move away from the failure of the trickle-down economy. It doesn't work. All right, next time I'll talk about another part of the economy that is available to Jamaica and is part of the alternative to trickle down that is available to us. All right, see you then.